Ruth's story is a journey of pain, courage, and transformation. Have you ever felt lost, hopeless, as if life had taken everything away from you? Ruth also faced the sadness of losing everything she loved, but her story did not end in despair. On the contrary, she found strength, faith, and a new beginning, even in the most difficult situations. In this story, we will see how loyalty and love can bring healing and a new beginning, and how, even when everything seems lost, God has a greater plan, capable of restoring what seemed irreparable. Get ready to connect deeply with this story, because it speaks of overcoming, faith, and the beauty of new beginnings. Before we begin Ruth's incredible story, I want to make a special invitation to you. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any powerful stories like this one. Here, you will find inspiring stories that touch the heart and teach us about faith, courage, and new beginnings. Let's go on this journey together. In Bethlehem, a great famine takes over everything. What was a land of fertile fields is now dry, and food is becoming scarce. People look at empty barns, uncultivated fields, and the sky that seems unwilling to send the necessary rain. Among them is a family, Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Hunger afflicts them, and Elimelech, seeing the situation increasingly difficult, feels that he must do something to save his family. Elimelech then makes a very difficult decision, to leave Bethlehem and try to make a life in Moab, a neighboring country where the famine has not yet reached. He knows that Moab is a foreign land, with different customs and worshippers of other gods, but he believes that there they will have a chance to survive. With a heavy heart, he says goodbye to the city he loves, leaving behind his home and the promise of a life that could not be fulfilled. They leave with few things, each step marked by longing and hope for better days. When they arrive in Moab, they face challenges in adapting, but they do what is necessary to survive. Elimelech searches for ways to support his family, while Naomi and her children try to adapt to their new reality. It is a difficult beginning in a strange land, but they have each other and, despite everything, they believe they did the best they could to stay together and be safe. This journey, motivated by necessity and courage, would be just the beginning of a story with profound and unexpected developments. After a long and difficult journey, Elimelech, Naomi, and their sons, Mahlon and Chilion, finally settle in Moab. The new land is different, the customs are strange, and the people see them as foreigners. Naomi, although she misses Bethlehem, remains steadfast, trusting that this change will bring better days for her family. As time passes, Elimelech's sons marry Moabite women, Mahlon marries Ruth, a determined and kind-hearted young woman, and Chilion marries Orpah, a woman with a gentle spirit. But soon, a new tragedy strikes the family. Elimelech, the man who brought his family to Moab in the hope of a new beginning, falls ill and dies. Without him, Naomi finds herself lost. The man who was her lifelong companion, her support, her love, is no longer by her side. Now, Naomi bears the responsibility of caring for her sons and daughters-in-law in a land where everything seems strange to her. The pain is deep, but she holds on, trusting that God is still watching over them. Years pass, and Naomi's suffering does not end there. Without any explanation, her sons, Mahlon and Chilion, also die. Within a short period of time, Naomi finds herself alone, far from her homeland, without a husband or children. Her dreams of a prosperous family in Moab turn to dust, and emptiness consumes her. She, who left Bethlehem seeking safety and hope, now faces an irreparable loss. Ruth and Orpah, her daughters-in-law, share Naomi's grief. The 3 women find themselves united in grief, each with their own pain, but bonded by the love and companionship they have created. Naomi, devastated, feels that God has cut her off from his blessings. Her heart is broken, and amidst the silence of Moab, she feels like a stranger without a home or a purpose. Now, all that is left for Naomi is the longing for the family she lost and the shattered faith she still tries to carry. Life in Moab has become dark and painful for Naomi. Without a husband or children, she feels the weight of loneliness and sadness in a foreign land. The days pass slowly, and the morning turns into a deep emptiness that seems to have no end. But then, news reaches Naomi's ears: the famine in Bethlehem is over, and the Lord has once again blessed his people with bread and plenty. The house of bread is now experiencing better days, and hope begins to emerge in her broken heart. With this news, Naomi makes a courageous decision: she will return to Bethlehem. There is no longer anything that ties her to Moab. Her homeland calls, and she feels it is time to return, even though she does not know what she will find or how she will be received. The memory of Bethlehem is what gives her strength. She wants to return to her people, to the place where she grew up, where she was happy with Elimelech, and where, perhaps, she can find some peace. When she decides to leave, Naomi calls her 2 daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, to accompany her. They follow her for a while, until Naomi stops and looks at them both lovingly. Naomi knows that the journey back to Bethlehem will be difficult, and that her daughters-in-law are young, with their whole lives ahead of them. She does not want them to leave their own families, their land, and the opportunities they may still find in Moab. With sweet, sincere words, Naomi tells Ruth and Orpah to return to their families, to find new husbands, and to rebuild their lives. "May the Lord be gracious to you, as he has been to me and my children," she says, blessing them. Through tears, she kisses them, and the three of them weep together, each feeling the pain of parting and the uncertainty of what lies ahead. Orpah, reluctantly and regretfully, decides to follow Naomi's advice and return to her family. However, Ruth cannot bring herself to leave Naomi. She holds her hand firmly and lovingly and responds with one of the most beautiful and moving statements in the Bible: "Do not force me to leave you, or force me not to follow you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." These words touch Naomi's heart deeply. Ruth is determined not to leave her alone. Ruth's loyalty is so great that she decides to give up everything in Moab, her home, her people, her gods, to be by Naomi's side and become part of her people. So the two women, united by grief and faith, set out for Bethlehem. What do you think of Naomi's courageous decision and Ruth's unwavering loyalty? How would you feel in their shoes, amidst their pain and uncertainty? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on this touching moment in Ruth's story. Let's talk about faith, courage, and the strength of the bonds that unite us, even in the most difficult situations. Naomi and Ruth walk for days, braving the heat and fatigue on the long road from Moab to Bethlehem. Each step is heavy with memories of the past and the pain of loss. Finally, the mountains surrounding Bethlehem appear on the horizon, and Naomi feels her heart race. The city she left behind now rises with life, and the green fields reveal that the famine has finally ended. When they reach Bethlehem, the women of the city recognize Naomi and are surprised to see her again. "Is it really Naomi?" they murmur, remembering the woman they once knew. Upon hearing this, Naomi responds with sincerity and sadness. She says that she no longer wants to be called Naomi, which means pleasant, but rather Mara, which means bitter, because her life has been marked by suffering. "The Almighty has made my life bitter," she explains, revealing the pain she carries. At her side, Ruth, the young Moabite, is a stranger in the city, but she remains steadfast and loyal. She has chosen to follow Naomi and join the people of Israel, leaving her homeland behind. Together, they enter Bethlehem, facing a new beginning filled with challenges, but also with hope. After Naomi and Ruth arrive in Bethlehem, the reality of life in their new town quickly becomes apparent. Without the support of a husband or children, they must support themselves. Naomi, with the wisdom that comes from experience, knows that the only way to get food is to go to the fields and glean the remains of the harvest. It is then that Ruth volunteers to work in the fields, determined to help her mother-in-law and survive amidst the hardships. In those days, it was common for farmers to leave behind the grain that fell during the harvest. The laws of Moses allowed the poor and foreigners, like Ruth, to gather these remains for food. Ruth, with a spirit of courage and determination, heads to one of the fields belonging to Boaz, an influential and respected man in Bethlehem. She does not hesitate to introduce herself as a foreigner, but she is willing to work hard, knowing that each ear of grain she gathers could mean the difference between hunger and satiety. Upon reaching the field, Ruth joins the other women working under the scorching sun. The work is hard. They bend down and gather the fallen grain, placing it in baskets. Ruth works hard, moving quickly between the rows, her determination shining through even in the face of fatigue. She has a clear focus, to make sure she and Naomi have something to eat. Boaz, the owner of the field, arrives to inspect his crops. He is a man of good reputation, known for his generosity and kindness. Seeing Ruth working so hard, he approaches his workers and asks, "Who is this young woman?" The servants tell him about Ruth, the Moabite who came with Naomi, and how she volunteered to work in the fields early in the morning. Boaz is impressed by her willingness and courage, and he quickly decides to take action. Drawn to Ruth's strength and character, Boaz approaches her. He greets her kindly and, with an encouraging tone, says, "Listen, Ruth. You can stay here and glean without worrying about anything. You are welcome, and I will make sure no one bothers you." His words comfort her and bring a breath of hope to Ruth. She, who has faced so many hardships, now finds not only a place to work, but also a measure of dignity and security. Ruth continues to work diligently, gleaning the grain under the protection of Boaz. The day progresses, and she feels increasingly grateful for this new opportunity. The women around her begin to notice her determination and their admiration grows. Ruth, with her strength and resilience, not only seeks to provide for herself and Naomi, but also begins to make a positive impression in Bethlehem. Thus, Ruth begins to chart her course in the midst of adversity, unaware that her life is about to change forever, and that her actions will lead her to an extraordinary destiny. Ruth works hard in Boaz's fields, gathering grain to feed herself and her mother-in-law, Naomi. With each passing day, she is more grateful to have found a safe and welcoming place. After a tiring day, Ruth returns home with a basket full of grain, and Naomi's anticipation is palpable. Upon entering, Ruth shares the good news. Boaz has welcomed me. He told me that I could work freely in his fields and that no one would bother me. Ruth's words fill Naomi with joy and hope. She recognizes Boaz's kindness as a divine blessing, a sign that their lives are changing for the better. Ruth expresses her gratitude to God for each ear of grain she harvests, recognizing that her life in Bethlehem, though challenging, is filled with new opportunities. Ruth's faith in the God of Israel grows with each passing day, and she feels part of a new family. Naomi observes the transformation in Ruth, who is now more than a daughter-in-law. She has become a daughter in spirit. United by loyalty and love, the two women begin to dream of a better future. Ruth's gratitude shines like a beacon, offering hope and courage to face the challenges that lie ahead. If you are feeling moved by the story of Ruth and Naomi, don't forget to leave a like. This helps us bring these inspiring stories to more people and continue to bring content that touches the heart. Like now and keep following this incredible journey. As Ruth continues to work in Boaz's fields, Naomi watches closely. She sees her daughter-in-law's determination and Boaz's kindness, and an idea begins to take shape in her mind. Naomi realizes that Boaz is a close relative, and according to the laws of the time, he could serve as a redeemer for her family, assuming the responsibility of caring for them and restoring their rights. One night, as they talk, Naomi decides to share her plan with Ruth. In a soft, hopeful voice, she says, "My daughter, it is time for us to think about our future. Boaz is our relative, and he can help us. I want you to prepare to go to him." Ruth listens attentively, intrigued by what Naomi has in mind. Naomi then explains the steps Ruth should take. When Boaz is preparing for the harvest, and after he has eaten and drunk, he will lie down in the field to rest. You must go to him, find where he is sleeping, and carefully lie down at his feet. He will awaken you, and you will be able to speak to him. Naomi believes that this simple but bold gesture will allow Ruth to declare her intention to become Boaz's wife, strengthening the connection between them. Ruth, though a little hesitant, trusts Naomi. She knows that her mother-in-law is acting out of love and wants the best for both of them. "I will do everything you have told me," Ruth responds with determination. So Ruth prepares herself, dressing in her best clothes in an attempt to show Boaz that she is worthy of his interest. As night falls, Ruth heads to Boaz's field, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The moon shines brightly, illuminating the path as she approaches the place where Boaz sleeps. With great care, Ruth does as Naomi has instructed, lying down at the feet of the man who could change their destiny. Naomi waits anxiously at home, praying and trusting that her plan will work. She is certain that if Ruth follows her instructions, Boaz will recognize her courage and determination. Thus, hope begins to spring up again in Naomi's life, for she knows that this step could be the key to restoring their lives and continuing their family. After Ruth's bold proposal to Boaz, he shows genuine interest in her, but also informs her that there is a closer relative who has priority to perform the role of redeemer. To resolve this issue, Boaz decides to gather the town elders. This group of wise and respected leaders is responsible for maintaining order and traditions in Bethlehem, and their participation is crucial to ensuring that everything is done according to the law. Boaz calls a meeting at the town gate, a place where important decisions were made and legal issues were discussed. As soon as he arrives, he finds himself face to face with the relative who has the right to redeem Ruth and Naomi. With a cordial gesture, Boaz calls out to him, "Friend, come here and sit with us." Seeing the gathering forming, other elders and townspeople gather to hear what is about to happen. Boaz, ever respectful, explains the situation. He tells about Naomi and how she returned from Moab after losing her husband. Boaz candidly explains that Naomi is looking for a redeemer for her property and that Ruth the Moabite is her daughter-in-law. He mentions the importance of preserving the family name of Naomi's deceased husband Elimelech by uniting Ruth with the redeemer. The closest relative listens attentively, but when Boaz mentions that Ruth will become his wife, he hesitates. The responsibility to redeem is not only an act of generosity, it also entails new obligations and the risk of compromising his own inheritance. He considers and eventually decides not to take on this responsibility, saying, "I cannot redeem the property, for it would compromise my own inheritance." In this decision, Boaz sees an opportunity. With the approval of the elders present, he offers to redeem Naomi's property and at the same time marry Ruth. The decision is welcomed by the elders, who recognize Boaz's goodness and integrity. They say, "May the Lord make you prosper in Ephrathah, and may your name be famous in Bethlehem." In the midst of this reunion, the story of Ruth and Naomi takes a new turn. Their fates are now intertwined with that of Boaz, and everyone in the town recognizes the significance of this event. The gathering of the elders is not just a formality, it is a time of restoration and hope, where the past meets a promising future, and Ruth the Moabite finds her place among the people of Israel. After Boaz and Ruth formalize their agreement, the town of Bethlehem prepares for a grand event, the wedding. News of the union spreads quickly, bringing hope and joy to the community. Boaz, known for his honor, carefully organizes everything, ensuring that the day is special and respectful of tradition. Ruth, excited and grateful, prepares for the wedding alongside her mother-in-law, Naomi. The women of the town help her adorn herself with elegant clothes and jewelry, celebrating not only her beauty but also her strength and loyalty. Ruth reflects on her journey from Moab to Bethlehem and feels blessed to have Boaz by her side. When the big day arrives, the town is in celebration. Sounds of music and laughter echo through the streets as Boaz waits anxiously at the altar. He makes heartfelt vows, promising to care for and love Ruth. She, with a radiant smile, reciprocates with vows of loyalty and commitment. The simple but meaningful ceremony is followed by a joyful feast. Friends and family share stories and laughs, celebrating the new union. Ruth watches Boaz, feeling loved and protected, and realizes that she has finally found her place. Ruth and Boaz's marriage represents a new beginning for both of them. Their union is not only a celebration of love, but also a testament to faith and hope, showing that new beginnings can emerge even in the most challenging circumstances. After Ruth and Boaz marry, they become an important part of David's lineage, which will culminate in the lineage of the Messiah. Ruth, a Moabite, and Boaz, a respected Israelite, bring hope to their families and to the community of Bethlehem. Together, Ruth and Boaz have a son named Obed. Obed's presence brings renewed joy to Naomi, who finds her life filled with love once again. Ruth and Boaz raise Obed with affection, instilling in him the values and traditions of their people. Obed grows up and marries, becoming the father of Jesse, who becomes a respected man in Bethlehem. Jesse has many sons, among whom is David, a young shepherd who demonstrates courage and devotion to God. David becomes a renowned warrior in Israel and is chosen by God to be the future king. His journey is marked by courage and faith, and he always remembers his humble origins. The lineage of David, which begins with Ruth and Boaz, leads to the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. The inclusion of Ruth, a Moabite woman, in the genealogy is a powerful testimony to God's love that transcends barriers. In this way, Ruth's story becomes not only a story of loyalty, but also a fundamental part of God's plan of redemption for humanity. What touched your heart most about Ruth's story? Her courage, Naomi's loyalty, or perhaps the way God used each of these moments for a greater purpose? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on the story of faith, hope, and new beginnings. We love hearing what you think. And so, Ruth's story shows us something powerful. No matter how difficult the path, there is always hope for a new beginning. Even when life seems to take everything away from us, loyalty, faith, and love help us find restoration. Ruth, with her courage and determination, not only rebuilt her life, but also became part of something much bigger, the lineage that would lead to the Savior of the world. Her story is not just hers, it is about all of us. We all face difficult times, but like Ruth, we can choose faith, loyalty, and love to transform our story. If Ruth could see her life restored and become a part of God's plan, we too can trust that God has something great in store for us, even in the darkest of times. So remember, no matter where you are right now, Ruth's story is a reminder that God can turn our pain into blessing and give us the chance to start over. He never abandons us. May your journey, too, be one of faith, hope, and new beginnings. If you were inspired by Ruth's story, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our next powerful stories. Turn on the bell to receive notifications and continue following us on this journey of faith and inspiration. We're in this together.